Hey guys, Jacob from the Tripod here, where we break down our best bets in the NFL every single week. And this week we're looking at week 8, and it has been a huge week. If we go back to Sunday, of course, it was the NRL Grand Final. That's our number one sport. We went 2-0 when we picked the wrong team, or we picked the underdog, but they kept it close enough, Penrith, the markets we had, to finish our season 167 and 101, which is 63%, including 7-1 in the NRL finals. I mean, that is an absolutely insane NRL season by us, like one of the greatest achievements we've had in 6 seasons of tipping. Monday, we then went 2-1 in the NFL. We were looking in a position to sweep, and we lost a game in overtime in Sunday Night Football. So we dropped back down to only 74% in NFL. We are 23-8 after 7 weeks, which is also insane, by the way. Then it was a huge week because we debuted our episode 1 of our brand new show, which is called The Wide World of Punting. And if you haven't listened yet, we recapped the NRL Grand Final. We talked the Flemington Carnival, Derby Day today, Melbourne Cup coming up. There's the Golden Eagle at Rose Hill. Jason Campbell jumped on the show and he gave us a 26-1 that's running today. We looked early thoughts at Origin. We discussed your guys' listener questions, topics, and feedback, even the US election. So check that one out. Episode 2 is going to be next week on Thursday. And if obviously you guys watch this, you like the NFL, there'll be plenty of NFL chat over the summer. We've even got a chance to bring on a former NFL player as a guest in upcoming weeks. So look, let's jump into week 8. As I said, our win percentage of 74% is ridiculous. I'll be completely honest. We are aiming to get better than 55% and just try and make a profit betting on the games which we enjoy watching and punting on. You know the format of the show. I'm just going to talk about the games where we have a best bet, and I'm going to share why. If there's any other games you want our thoughts, or if you want a bit more, or you want to challenge anything we've said on the games we do like, hit us up in the comments as always. Let's get into it. First game, we've got the Rams, and they are -3 or 3.5 at Miami. Look, the Dolphins will look appealing to a lot of people because they've had some impressive results. None more impressive than when they smoked the 49ers, but I think 49ers were just in a terrible situation on that day. The Rams coming in off a short week, and they've had the most arduous travel schedule of any team in 2020. And even in this game, they've got to travel west to east and play early time slots. So a lot of things are going against the Rams here. But I think the fact that they played like quite a toothless Bears on that Monday night game, where second half they didn't have to show anything. They played vanilla. They knew the game was in hand. They knew that the Bears basically couldn't beat them. They could only beat themselves. And the Rams are a team that are still built to win now, absolutely set to make the playoffs. They've got, superstar blue chip players across the lineup, and they're on big money, whereas Miami is a team obviously building for the future. And on that note, while they're off to bye, they start their rookie QB, Tua Tagovailoa, and it's an awesome story after he suffered a horrendous injury about a year ago, and I'm excited to see him play. But talk about baptism of fire, so coming up against Aaron Donald and co. So while a lot of people might think Miami with the points is appealing, we're laying the -3. Our best bet is -3 at $1.81 on Sportsbet. Then we've got an AFC East clash. It's the Bills at home to the Patriots, and our best bet is Buffalo -3.5. You'll find that $1.86 in the other markets on Sportsbet, because I think it's a -4 in most places, but in Sportsbet other, they usually always have the line at a half point. We can jag an extra half point there. Our other best bet as well is on Sportsbet. It's also sneaky. It's -2.5 in the first half. And if you go to first half markets, you're going to find it. It's paying $1.76. But if you scroll down a bit further, it's actually under first half markets in 2 different places. And the lower one is $1.83, Bills -2.5. So you've got to be sneaky sometimes. The bookies don't do you any favors. You've got to work for this value. Why do we like the Bills? They truly are a playoff team. They've impressed me in 2020. I think they've lost 2 games this year, and they're pretty excusable. They had the Titans game that was rescheduled. They only found out probably 30 hours before kickoff the game was going ahead. And they had a loss to the Chiefs. There's not much shame in that. Even last week, you might think, oh, the Bills only beat the Jets by 8. Well, they kicked 8 field goals with 0 touchdowns, and they missed a couple of those field goals as well. So if they could have just converted one of those scoring drives into a TD, they cover that line as well. And the Pats are just a mess right now. Obviously, they've been a dynasty for 20 years, but they've got so many injuries, headlined by Stephon Gilmore, the best defensive back in the league. And I know that people might be looking at the Pats because Belichick historically in this spot with his back is against the wall. That's where he loves to be, and that's where they usually win ATS. But wasn't that last week? It was a really good spot for them to beat San Fran, and they got destroyed. So I think if Pats pulled together their best game, and if Cam Newton improves a ton, they could keep it close. But we can still cover -3.5 if it's close. There's also a big possibility the Bills just stamp their authority in the division and smoke the Pats, to be honest. Another really good game coming up in week 8, another rivalry game, AFC North. It's the Ravens hosting the Steelers. Line is 4.5, but our best bet is Ravens minus 3.5, $1.85. So we're beating the market by at least half a point there, and we like the Ravens. We've also got the Ravens team total over 24.5 at $1.89. Both those bets are on Unibet. So I think, again, some people are going to think it's sharp to take the points in what's historically a super close rivalry. The Steelers are undefeated, playing great ball. I don't want to take anything away from them. But the Ravens, I want to go back to 2019. Really, the Ravens were every bit as good as the Chiefs all of last year. In fact, historically, they were just destroying teams and they were beating the spread by a historic margin. I think they went on a run of games where they beat the spread by double-digit points for like 10 weeks in a row on average. And then they lose a shocker to the Titans in the divisional round of the playoffs. And then this year, they lost on Monday Night Football to the Chiefs, but it was very clear the Chiefs just were so dialed in on that game. They really built their whole first half of the season around winning that game in Baltimore. They came out and the Chiefs were dynamite in that game, got the Ravens behind and made the Ravens look bad. Every other Ravens game, they've been pretty comfortable and won. I know you're going to say last time they played, they only beat Philly by 2, but they're up 16 late and Philly gets a couple of late TDs. I still feel like there's never a point in the game where you thought Philly was going to win. So what I basically have is a Ravens team, which I think is underrated. I think they're as good as any side in the NFL against a Steelers team that, no doubt about it, has been playing well. But are people factoring in the loss of Devin Bush? Lost him for the season, which is extremely unlucky. And he's like the quarterback of the defense at linebacker there. And you think back a few years ago, they lost Will Shazier. And this defense could have been even more scary than it already is. And they played a very physical game against the Titans last week. So I think they'll come in, they'll try and be aggressive as an underdog to the Ravens, which could actually lead to, going for it fourth down, taking chances, maybe leads to turnovers. But ultimately, I think Lamar hasn't showed everything he can do, or the Ravens have held back on what his capability is. But he's the MVP for a reason, and he's going to show them some looks that they really haven't seen yet. The Ravens should definitely outscore them, and we think score more than 24 and cover that game. Then we've got the Titans, who are on the road. -7 is the common line at the Bengals. We are taking best bet -6.5 at $1.85 on Unibet, and a prop bet I'll get to in a second as well. So the Titans have had a pretty disrupted 2020, but it's still a very good team. We really like the way that they're connected. They're well coached. They know how to win games. They made the AFC title game last year. And of course, I can't say that the Steelers go into that last game with a physical toll and then dismiss it for the Titans. It was a physical game that they lost in Pittsburgh last week, but there's just a big class difference here, against the Bengals. And the Bengals are missing their best offensive player in Joe Mixon this week. They've got a terrible offensive line that's even more depleted this week. The Titans are just that kind of team that's a bully that just steamrolls a side that can't hang with them. And that's why we think the Titans, when we can lay under a touchdown, we're going to do it. Now, Joe Burrow's #1 pick, he's been really impressive. I've talked about how bad the O-line is. He still stands in there and delivers some good throws. I think he's going to be a star for a long time in this league. But he has no running back to lean on. In fact, Gio Bernard comes in as the backup. He's really a pass-catching back. What he does have, Joe, is his top 3 wide receivers healthy for the first time this season. So, as we said, we think they're going to be down in this game. We think he's going to have to throw a lot. There's been games already this season where he has thrown the ball 60-plus times. We think his passing yards total, so you find that in quarterback props or passing yards, at 281.5 on Sportsbet is pretty cheap. I mean, he could have 150 in the fourth quarter alone. So that is $1.88 on Sportsbet. Burrow over 281.5 passing yards, our first prop of 2020. Let's move to another division rivalry game. It's San Francisco 49ers. They are catching 3 points at Seattle. And Seattle let us down last week. I mean, I still really like them as a team. And I still wouldn't dismiss their Super Bowl credentials. Obviously, Russ is like on an MVP level. They've got the talent, but they are very depleted at the moment. They bloody lost that game in overtime when they were winning by double digits late in the fourth quarter. And we would have won our multi if they just held on to the lead there. But they're a lot more banged up this week too. No running backs really to pick from. A lot of guys out on the defense. And so I think Russ is still obviously going to have to throw it all over the yard, and they will be able to move the ball. San Fran are not the same fearsome defense that they were a year ago when they made the Super Bowl. Obviously, Nick Bosa's out for the season, but that means that San Fran has to be more aggressive, more innovative on offense. And, George Kittle's back in the team. Garoppolo's healthy. I know they lose Deebo Samuel, but they've also lost a couple of running backs, which I think means they also need to throw it around. Traditionally, San Fran versus Seattle is a defensive war. I think this year the tables turn and it's a shootout. I think San Fran covers, but our best bet we can find is to take their team total over 24.5 at $1.83 on 365. And just on that, man, it's hard to win money when Bet365 has their team totals at the 50-50 price, $1.83 on both sides. I mean, taking 17 cents off the boys on both sides, but we still think that it's a worthwhile play and that can win at a profitable percentage. Look, that's all the best bets, but Sunday Night Football is Cowboys-Philly, which is kind of a disaster. I mean, yikes, the Cowboys are -11. They're down to their third-string quarterback. As I said, no best bet, but we'll look a bit closer at the game Monday morning. Probably have a same gamer for you if you would like any combinations of the markets. Not that anyone cares, but Alex and I are head-to-head in our fantasy football league this week, and we have a $200 side bet just on who wins this week. We also have a $500 side bet on who does better this season, and we're both 3 and 4, so it's a pretty big week for us. I'm going to post our lineups probably tomorrow or whatever. You guys can check it and see who you think's going to win. I've got Zeke Elliott, so hope the Cowboys don't get smoked, but there's a fair chance they will. What's coming up, guys? Tomorrow, Origin 1 preview. So we're going to do a full State of Origin Game 1 deep dive because that game is in 4 or 5 days' time. Wednesday night, we're actually getting Clarkey from Clarkey's Rugby League column to jump on with us. And of course, then, Wide World of Punting. We debuted the show on a Wednesday night. That's going to be the usual time slot. But because Origin is Wednesday, we're going to push our show to Thursday, and that will allow us to recap Origin, as well as we want to talk some horror punting stories of heartbreak and a lot more. Hope you guys can tune in for that, whether you tune in live and interact with us or just catch it anytime during the week. It's a great precursor to everything that's happening in the world of punting that you might be interested on. Get to know us, some of our stories, and some more punting theory throughout the summer. We can all get a bit sharper together. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a great weekend, guys. As always, gamble responsibly.